News out of Iraq, where there are reports of a mortar round being fired close to the high-security Green Zone in Baghdad. The area houses key government buildings and the U.S. Embassy. The explosion was reported about 20 minutes ago. Let's speak to our correspondent, Charlie Stratford, who joins us on the line from Baghdad. Charlie, what more are you hearing about this?
Well, certainly in the last few minutes, we've spoken to the media department of one of the Iraqi security ministries involved in security here in Baghdad. They are telling us that indeed a mortar round, what they're saying was a mortar round, was fired to an area close to the Green Zone. That comes after reports, the Reuters news agency having spoken to diplomatic sources, Baghdad-based diplomats. No reports of casualties as yet. Obviously, the Green Zone of huge significance because it is home to so many foreign embassies and government buildings, and we have seen in recent months certainly a breakdown of a lot of the security fences and obvious security measures in that area. And of course, it comes at a time of heightened tension. Iraq very much in the middle of this in crisis between the US and Iran. We saw the US Embassy only last week demand that its non-emergency staff left the country. We saw over the weekend as well the evacuation, what was described as evacuation of foreign staff for the oil company ExxonMobil in the south of Iraq. And obviously, an incident like this very much sort of plays into the hands of those that are increasingly nervous about Iraq being drawn into what has been described as, a proxy conflict, because, of course, Iraq shares so many political, religious, military ties with Iran. And there's been a lot of focus on these so-called Iraqi militias or Iraqi armed groups that are funded by Iran. But so far, nobody has claimed responsibility for this attack.
Right. And as you said, Charlie, no injuries reported, no casualties reported so far in Baghdad. And as you also said, this coming at a time of heightened tensions with Iran, heightened regional tensions. Have there been any additional security measures put in place in Iraq, in places like the Green Zone, where this attack is said to have happened?
Well, no obvious additional security measures put into place. As I say, in the last few months, we've seen something that was very much celebrated by Iraqi politicians, by the Iraqi government, which was the removal of these blast walls and a lot of the obvious security measures that we've seen there for years, since sort of 2003, 2004, since the US-led invasion. But we've also heard pronouncements by the Prime Minister here, Abdullah Mahdi, saying that certainly last week there has been no indication of any kind of increased threat. That very much in response to the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo's visit, saying that he had been given intelligence that there were what he described as specific increasing threats against US interests here, as we've seen this build-up of tension between the US and Iran. But as I say, this comes at a very worrying time. And it's also worthy to say, though, that certainly last February there was a similar incident when the US administration, when Donald Trump basically said that he was very much for US forces staying in this country. So he said to keep an eye on Iran. That's around 5,200 US servicemen and women that are in Iraq. We did see a response to that statement fairly soon afterwards, which involved the firing of explosive projectiles towards the US Embassy compound. Again, nobody injured in that attack. So it's fair to say that these kind of attacks, are certainly at a time like this where we're seeing this increasing tension, it's not inconceivable that such an incident has happened.
Okay. Charlie, thank you very much for that update. Again, if you're just joining us on the News Hour, breaking news out of Iraq, where an apparent mortar has exploded near the heavily fortified Green Zone in the Iraqi capital. The Green Zone, which houses several embassies, including the U.S. Embassy. So far, no reports of casualties. Of course, we'll bring you all the latest on this breaking news story as and when information becomes available.